Brad Yo will be joining us in a few minutes. I'm Jay Angel. I will be your host. With us tonight, we're switching gears. Here's Brad right now. Brad!
Hey, sorry.
I was just introducing our guest here, Brad, with us tonight.
Sweet.
We're switching gears a little bit here, guys. We have a guy here from none other than California. And we have Jason Usson. How you doing tonight, Jason?
I'm doing great, Jay. How about you?
I'm doing great as well.
Hey, Jason, thanks for being on with us.
Hey, no problem, Brad. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely.
Been looking forward to it.
Jason fishes the Apex, and what I'd like to talk to him is the very special tournament that they had. When was that, last year, Jason?
June of last year, yes.
We had the Spartan 580. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that tournament?
So the format was totally different than what you would normally see in most tournament circuits. We went up to the Columbia River, and the first 3 days was was a typical Apex tournament. And what happened was everybody fished. On the third, it was actually a total of 9 days for the tournament. The first 2 days, everybody fished. They cut it down to the top 10, and the top 10 fished. And then they had, which was a sanctioned event. Those first 3 days was a sanctioned event for points and all that to get the Angler of the Year and the TOC and the championships. And then the top 10 fished that. Ken Ma won. And then the rest of us joined back in, the ones who qualified to continue on, fished. And we moved down the river, down, I can't think of where. Anyways, we moved down the river and we fished out of there for the first day or two. And then the wind came up and it blew us off the water and we couldn't fish one day. And so you had to be real versatile. It was cool. The Columbia River is a huge river. Tons of water to fish. So, and in the Apex events, you don't have time to pre-fish. All you could do is do your research online. So you don't know anything. Like myself, I'd never been there before. The upper pools I've been to, but the lower pools that we went to fish the rest of the event. And well, I'll tell you how the rest of the event goes. So we fished for the rest of the event until the last day, and then they did a final cut. And then the last day, they moved us up to the pool above, like an in-between pool, and that's all we could fish. We couldn't lock, and it was a totally different body of water than we had fished in the previous 2 events. So it's basically 3 events in one.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was. We actually fished 8 out of the 9 days, and I'll tell you what. I mean, your body takes a beating, especially your fingers.
In the Columbia River, geez, 6, 7 foot waves sometimes?
Oh yeah. Well, you know what you do when you go down the river and you don't know where you're going. You see a 6, 7 foot wave. You turn around and go find some calm water because you don't know any better. So,
right.
In 9 days, you figure you got to try to take care of your equipment. You got to try to take care of your body. That's a lot. And not everybody, out there is like young fellas, No. David Quintside had COVID, which he didn't know until afterward. But he's out there running and gunning and, in this weather. And it was a lot. It was a lot. It definitely.
I always knew that David was tough. But he's out there fishing the Columbia River with COVID.
Yeah.
Now, man, that is one tough guy.
Oh yeah, for sure. Dave, yeah, he definitely. I wish I had half his energy, and I think he might be even older than I am. I'm not 100%, but
And when I think of the Columbia River, I think of salmon, I think of walleyes, but first thing I think about is sturgeon. But now you guys tell me there's bass in there.
Huge.
Oh, and there's a lot of bass in there. Yeah, it's good fishing. You go up there and we're catching 75 to 100 fish a day. We actually did have guys. I know Matthew Nadeau, he caught a sturgeon. There were some other guys. I can't think of anyone right off the top of my head, but they were catching walleye. There was some sturgeon caught. I believe there was some salmon caught.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't catch any of those, but I caught a lot of bass.
I fished the Columbia River in Astoria, and buoy 13 and we were actually salmon fishing, but you had to catch the salmon, which is 36, 42 inches long, and hurry up and fight this fish and get it in before a sea lion got it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We got a big sea lion problem out here in California, but I don't remember seeing any at the Columbia River. But you sounds like you were down a little.
We were way out. We were on almost. I mean, you could see where it opened up to the ocean.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. You guys are way far inland, so
yeah. The Columbia River, it's a special place. It really is.
Largemouth or smallmouth bass?
Well, if you want to win, yeah, you might want to find the largemouth. But smallmouth, I mean, there's a lot of guys they're catching smallmouth and they're winning on some of them tournaments. But as far as the Apex goes, if you look at the previous 2 times that Apex has showed up there, the largemouth, if you can catch the largemouth, you can figure out where they're at and get on them. Ken Ma is one of the best anglers out here on the West Coast, and he's going to fish for largemouth and he's going to find largemouth. And that's exactly what he did in the first 3 days of that event. And I mean, he didn't just win. He made the rest of us look pretty silly.
So he dominated, huh?
Yeah, he dominated. He really did. I mean, I don't know if you guys have had an opportunity to actually see the event, or I believe it's out. Yeah, no, it's out. You could catch it on the Pursuit channel, and then once it goes off the Pursuit channel, you can catch it on Outdoor Action TV.
Yeah, the Pursuit channel is also on Roku.
Okay.
I actually get it there, so.
I get it on Dish Network, so I gotta watch it, or else I could tape it.
That's something interesting. I see that Dish Network is on your jersey. Are you hooked up with them?
I am hooked up with Dish. It's through Excel Marketing, which is our local retailer, and they're provides service through Dish Network. So yeah, it's pretty cool. If you looking at Dish, they got a 99% reliability rating on rural areas. They got a 3-year price guarantee. They've been rated #1 by JD Powers and their customers for 5 years in a row. So, if you're gonna have it, TV, might as well have Dish.
So, do they sponsor other bass fishermen as well?
Ken Ma's hooked up with Dish as well and Excel Marketing. So there's just 2 of us that I actually know of out here on the West Coast. I'm not sure what else they have going on as far as other anglers, but myself and Ken Ma out here.
Okay. That's interesting. Not industry sponsors. That's my hat's off to you, man.
Yeah.
It's the way of the future. Everybody's big companies want to see their names on a boat.
Yeah.
It's like the race cars, you know what I mean? And fishing it's getting big out here on the West Coast. This Apex thing's going to blow up. I mean, it's still, we're treading water right now and we're doing pretty good, but it's going to blow up. And when it does, it's, there's going to be a lot of these type sponsorships.
Good way to be cutting edge, Jason. We've had non-industry sponsors for a long time, but then it kind of went to the wayside for a little while. I remember Kellogg's used to sponsor a few guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you can get a grasp on it, good way to go.
But anyway, yeah, that's interesting. Guys, always be thinking outside the box.
Yeah, you have to, because I'll tell you what, it ain't cheap. Fishing these tournaments, traveling all over the place, staying in hotels, gas.
How far of travel did you have to go to get to Columbia River and to those different pools?
So Columbia River was probably between 800 and 900 miles from here to there. I think we stayed outside. We stayed off the river about, about an hour in Condon, which it's roughly an hour from Arlington is where the initial 3 days was. And then we moved to the western pools. Then I stayed in a hotel. And, the first few days in the house, it's always a little more comfortable. But then when the hotels are sponsoring the tournament circuit, you kind of have some loyalty and stay there with them. So
I agree.
I'm sorry. I was trying to get the link to the live stream for the Facebook viewers, but I can't get it to. I can't copy the link. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
That's kind of our brand, Jason, is technical difficulties.
Yeah. I mean, it's every time. My computer wanted to reboot tonight. It hasn't rebooted in however long, and
He decides it's going to reboot right before we go on.
Yeah.
We have a show once a week.
Yeah.
It's well, we just laugh about it because there's no sense getting mad. It's not going to change it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're from California, Jason?
Yes, sir. Northern California. I'm about 35 miles southeast of Sacramento. Ione, California.
Is that close to Clear Lake?
About 3 hours.
Okay.
About 3 hours. Clear Lake's, awesome fishery as well. I don't get there as much as I should, but what a wonderful place to fish.
That's where they had the 100-pound basket, wasn't it?
I know years ago there was, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he put on a show with a swim bait, and I mean he was hooking giants outside the mouth and was throwing them back, and it was phenomenal. But John Pearl, he fishes this apex, and he's from Clear Lake, and he's a force to be reckoned with. You can get on YouTube or whatever, look up John Pearl, and I can promise you're going to find some videos, and it's going to be entertaining. So that's a good one to look for. Remember that name. A phenomenal fisherman.
We had Greg Gutierrez on, and he said that he got 103 pounds, and he came in third.
Yeah. It's amazing. And a fisherman like Greg, I mean, he's going to catch them. So, yeah, that'd be a heartbreaker. Show up with 103 pounds and not win. Yeah.
Third.
Yeah, I can't imagine. If you're not going to win with that weight, you might as well get 11 to make you feel a little bit better.
Right.
Well,
easier to swallow.
I mean, just to make yourself feel better. Well, I got Angler of the Year points.
Yeah, no doubt. Third place, 103 pounds. Yeah, I'd be heartbroken. Well, that's like Trinity this year. We did a Apex event at Trinity, and I mean, we didn't have 100 pounds, but that place is phenomenal. Catching big largemouth, northern strain largemouth, and big smallmouth. And Nick Salvucci put on a show there. He had, I can't remember exactly the weight he had, but he blew that one out. And I'm not sure you guys are aware of how we do our the Apex events go. It's the top 5 in weight and then the top 5 in actually fish caught. And we do it on a Tourney X system. So it's almost like the kayak fishing, how you take a picture on the Tourney X and you submit the picture and it has to go in. So they're keeping track of these fish. And I had been up to Trinity the month prior and, caught some fish, did pretty good. And so, of course, the next month I go up there and it changes. So at 10 o'clock, I'm looking at my Tourney X to see what everybody else is doing. Nick Salvucci has like 60 fish, and I'm still waiting to catch my first one. So that's one of those times you're in trouble. And I ended up weighing 40 pounds for just over 40 pounds for 2 days. And I didn't even get a check.
So when you're fishing like that, and hey, I'm fishing for weight, but is your mindset targeting bigger fish for 5, or is your mindset multiple numbers to try to qualify that way?
For me, I go off a feel right at the beginning of the day. If I get on something, if you get on some fish, this is what's different in, like your regular bass fishing tournaments. If you get on some fish in the Apex event, you better catch as many as you can. And then if you catch, 3 or 4 big ones, well, then you just keep doing what you're doing and try to make it by weight. But the next, like at the Columbia River on the sanction event, when we were up there on day 1, I had 4 fish, which if you told me I was only going to have 4 fish, I would have never believed you. But I had 4 fish. I was sitting in last place. So I knew going into day 2, I had to catch a lot of fish. So I just went after numbers and managed to catch. I caught quite a few fish on the second day and at least didn't embarrass myself by the end of the event.
Okay. So would you say we talked to a few people from out west, and a lot of those guys talk about catching bass in like ridiculously deep water?
Yeah, well, our ridiculously deep and your ridiculously deep are 2 different things. I can promise you that.
Well, yeah, I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, so yeah,
Yeah,
12
yeah.
feet. 12 feet is deep for me. Yeah.
20 feet
so,
deep for me.
Yeah. Yeah. See, so I don't know. About a week and a half ago, a friend of mine came out here from Tennessee that I was in the Marine Corps with. So him, my dad, and I went fishing at this local lake, New Melones, and we caught fish anywhere from 3 feet to 55 feet, and we probably could have caught them out deeper. And when you get in those deeper range, you slow down and you just kind of throw a drop shot, a jig, a tube. You can kind of catch them wherever you want right now. Wherever if you can find the bait, you're going to find the fish. So we would just
So,
get on bait balls, and throw a drop shot on them. If you see them busting near the bank, you throw a spook or top water or a spinnerbait.
That's my fishing right there.
Yeah,
look at the bait balls. That sounds like salmon fishing.
yeah. Well, and I mean the technology that's come out with these graphs, it's phenomenal. You can see the fish. You can use side scan, down scan. You can see all over the place, and
Forward
you
scan,
can
yeah.
cast over them. Yeah. So with the technology out here, you use it a little more when you're fishing deeper structure. You see the structure, you see the trees down there, you see where the fish are located, what depth. I mean, they're not always right on the bottom, so you just kind of target whatever depth they're at. One thing about catching them at 50 feet of water, don't reel them like they're in 3 feet, because if you do, their air bladder is going to be up in their throat.
Yeah.
So, but it's a lot of fun.
You have a needle and let it go. So
yeah,
they'll swim.
Usually, if you catch them, as long as if you don't put them in the live well, 9 times out of 10, you check the fish. Once you reel them in from that deep of water, and you can see if their air bladder doesn't look to be exposed through their crushers, and then the fish looks healthy, you can just drop it back in the water. Some fish, when they need to be fizzed, it's pretty obvious. You take your time reeling them in. You don't horse them to the boat. You get them in. You take your time. You want to take care of the fish. So,
right.
But yeah, usually you can see that if they need to be fizzed. If you throw them in your live well, then yeah, they need to be fizzed. Because most of the time, I mean, 90% of the time you fizz them, they're gonna make it.
Okay.
But if you don't, there's a good chance that they won't. So.
Right.
But you can kind of tell by looking at the fish.
I didn't know if you reeled slower that if you took your time bringing them to the boat, I didn't realize they adjust that fast. I thought if they were deep, that's the way it is.
Yeah, no. If you just take your time getting them to the boat, it's actually better for the fish.
So when you say take your time, if it's 60 feet down there, you're going to take 5 minutes to bring them in, or?
Oh, I'm not talking 5 minutes, but and it's funny because when you're tournament fishing, every fish, every bite, you want to get that fish in the boat as fast as you can. Everything is a hurry,
Yes.
And that's a mistake that a lot of us tournament fishermen actually make, because once you slow down, you put less stress on that fish, and the fish is not jumping all over the place, and but no, you just reel slower, just a casual, slower reel instead of cranking them in. If you go out to the California Delta, you hook a fish, you're getting that boat in as fast as you can, especially when you're flipping, and then you go drop shotting in 55 feet 2 days later, it's a different beast.
So the Spartan 580, a 9-day tournament.
Yeah.
Did you have a different strategy? I mean, that blows my mind. Most of the tournaments I fished have been 1 day, and if you do really good, you get to fish the second day, because I never made it past the BFL. So
yeah. So like my first day, I actually went out there and I was looking for largemouth. Fishing in some backwaters, fishing for largemouth, trying to do it how I would do it around here. And it didn't work out for me. I waited too long throughout the day to make a change. And when I did actually catch some fish, they were short, and I couldn't put up any numbers, and I didn't have any weight. So on day 2, what I did was I talked to a couple guys, just kind of get an idea. Some guys I trust that I stay with, Nick Salvucci and Ken. And we're just going over what kind of different things they were doing. And obviously Ken was doing the same thing I was doing, except for he found some fish that would bite. So the second day I went after smallmouth.
Okay.
And, and once I figured out what depth they were at, I spent a lot of time cranking, throwing a Kitech. So, a dual realis spy bait. You throw these fish. Once you figure out what depth they're at, then you can target them smallmouth pretty good. get in a little bit of current where, they got some ambush spots and, move that bait through there. And I'm not saying those fish weren't really picky as far as what you threw, but there had to be a little bit of current and some ambush spots. And then I kind of did that up on the two lower pools. I did that and it worked out really well. I caught just tons of fish.
Something that we always bring up on the Bassin Magazine podcast is building confidence in a lure. Spy baiting really hasn't taken the nation. It's very few and far between for anglers that know how to do that. Let's talk confidence in learning how to spy bait and techniques and hints, tricks, whatever you want to call it, for the weekend angler that wants to go out and learn how to do that and build confidence.
Well, I think one of the most important things is having some electronics that allow you to see kind of where the fish are and what they're doing. And if they're chasing bait, what you want to do is you want to get that spy bait down and around at the same depth that bait is. And then, sometimes the fish want to chase and sometimes they don't. So you have to figure out what the fish want. And you can watch them actually on the screen to see what they're doing when you move that bait into the strike zone. And you can see how the fish are reacting to it. If they're coming fast, then you just keep it going and you kind of, twitch it or reel it or let it, flutter down through the bait. It's so versatile and there's so many different ways that you can use that bait that, you just kind of let the fish tell you how they want it. You got to mix it up though until you figure out what they want. So I would say, and like anything else, you have to use it. You have to put it in your hand and you have to use it. You have to be versatile. And when you're using these different baits that you're not, it's foreign to you per se, then, you have to utilize it to gain confidence in it. So I would just take it out. If you want to get confidence in any bait, a spy bait, crankbait, jig, whatever, you go out there with two rods and have two different colors and go for it, until you build the confidence and learn what you should be doing to trigger that bite.
Absolutely.
And it's different every day.
Wow. Good answer.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's how I learned to throw a jig. I would go out fishing with my dad and he'd just tear me up and I'd be like, man, I can't catch nothing on it. Well, one day I went out there and that's all I took was one jig rod. And guess what? I figured it out.
And that's what that's what Jay and I say. If you're a pond fisherman, take just two rods, just the jig, like you said, two different colors. I don't think you said that on our podcast before, but just two colors and just go out there and you're either going to catch fish or not. But if you don't, that doesn't mean, that you can't catch fish on it. Just keep trying and you're going to learn and you're going to learn that bite and how the feel is and whether that's a log or rocks or whatever.
For sure. And utilize the bait when the fish are biting. You know what I mean? Don't go out there in the middle of January and throw a reaction bait and reel it as fast as you can and expect to load the boat. It doesn't happen that way. So when the fish are biting and they should, even if you go out one day and you're catching them on one thing, well, now the fish are biting. So you go out and if the conditions are the same, you go out and you work whatever bait that you want to work that you're not used to throwing and you go out there and you utilize it and, figure out how you can make it work for you. Because even the techniques, everybody's got their own techniques. Like I do things different than everybody else. And, and you never stop learning. Bass fishing is science, you have to keep after the fish and try to figure out because they're changing. We used to be able to go out here on the California Delta and catch, 100 fish a day on a spinnerbait. You go out there now, I don't even have the confidence to throw it. You know what I mean? So things change. And a lot of it's in our head though, because you've got something else you want to catch them on. I want to catch them on a crankbait. I want to catch them on a flipping stick instead of that spinnerbait. But you lose confidence in baits, you gain confidence in baits. And you said pond, that's a wonderful place to learn how to throw a bait, because if, ponds are a great place to catch fish because they're not getting a lot of pressure. So that's something you could do that people, need to take advantage of. If you got a pond, you can go try your spy bait or whatever bait you don't have confidence in, go there and they see a lot less baits than everywhere else.
Right.
That's
I know my ponds here's never seen a spy bait, so
yeah, for sure. And you probably go out there and you'd be like, man, I can catch them anywhere on this thing.
Yeah,
you never know.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, in like the apex thing, we fish so many different bodies of water. You got to have 40 rods tied up with 40 different baits, and you're praying one of them works. You know, I mean,
Right.
you're picking one up after another, and it's pretty exciting.
I bet that is.
Yeah.
Well, especially once you figure out what they want to bite, you know, and then because you can watch that Tourney X and you get a little nervous after a while.
Oh
If
yeah.
you're not catching them, everybody else is. All of a sudden, you start getting a
Tourney,
little.
Tourney X can be your friend or it can be your enemy. I know.
Yeah,
I
for
know.
sure.
There's so many distractions nowadays. You tournament anglers, you got Tourney X, you got other tournaments have live feeds like that too. You have your forward facing sonar that can become a video game, and next thing you know, you're not fishing, you're just watching it. There's
Yeah,
just
for
so
sure.
many things.
For sure. Yeah. The whole sonar thing, that's just blows my mind. These youngsters like Luke Johns out here, yeah, that guy, he's phenomenal with them things, you know what I mean? And Hayden Lee, like these guys, they watch these sonars and they know exactly what they're telling me stories, and I can't even keep up with their stories, let alone imagine what they're looking at on their sonar. You know what I mean? It's like, but they're young, they're used to the computers and all that, and I have a hard time keeping up with their conversation, let alone using that sonar like they do.
Man, when I first started fishing back in the 70s, we had the green Lowrance spots that made
Yeah.
You're excited when you see
where the weeds stopped. And
yeah.
But you have all those anglers that know how to read this forward-facing sonar and all from all three brands or whatever. But can they tell you where shad is on a flasher? I mean, that's foreign language to some of these people.
Yeah, well, you know what? It'd be a lot nice. It'd be way better for me if they just go back to a flasher.
Right.
I'll be fine with that. You know what I mean?
I caught fish using the flasher. I know they work. So
caught lots of fish using flashers, all different kinds of fish, from catfish to salmon.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I would be in a better boat if they would just get rid of everything and let us use nothing.
That would be an interesting premise for a new trail.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I'll you know what? I'll go ahead and throw that idea out there. We'll see how far it goes.
Right.
It won't go anywhere because
I'm pretty sure
guess who sponsors the,
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, sure. There'll be 3 or 4 of us that go along with it, and everybody else will be like, "Yeah, no, catch up."
Nobody would show up except for us old guys.
That's right. That would be a senior citizen league.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's all right.
Well, hey, Jason, on the Bassin Magazine podcast, what we'd like to do the last few minutes is to just give you a few minutes to thank your sponsors.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Like, I've already spoke about Dish, which is my #1 sponsor, that with Excel Marketing. And like I said, they have a 99% reliability rating in rural areas. If you're out somewhere and you're trying to watch the World Series tonight and all of a sudden your cable starts going out, well, guess what? You should have got Dish Network because it works. So they have a 3-year price guarantee. You can record up to 2,000 hours. Like I said earlier, 5 years, #1, JD Powers and its customers. I'd like to also thank Hook Bait and Tackle. It's my hometown tackle store, but they got an online store. You can get anything you need. It's hookforlife.com. And, Torch Eyewear, phenomenal eyewear. Not just for the fishermen, you know what I mean, but anything, great eyewear, great sunglasses. But other than that, and I mean,
okay, I did want to tell you, Jason, we do have a couple of comments here from a guy named Cajun Rob, who's a great friend of the Bassin Magazine podcast and a great personal friend of mine. He says,
great.
"In what bottom content is easier to tell on a flasher?"
Oh, on a flash, rock. How's that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think he meant that a flasher is really good at showing what kind of bottom content you have.
Oh, okay.
But then we were talking about old guys, and he says old guys rock.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm sure he knows way more about flashers than I do. But if we all went back to flashers, then I just wouldn't look at anything. I would just go fishing.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's how a lot of us old guys learned how to fish, just going out there and throwing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's like our local lakes. My dad and I, we'd go out there, we'd fish, and we'd hit a high spot, and all of a sudden, like we'd try to line it up on this tree, that tree, and where the geese land in February. You know what I mean? We'd figure it out. And then
Triangulate.
all of a sudden come out with these GPSs and topo maps, and it's like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? They made this way too easy. Our secret spots are no longer secret. Everybody's fishing the same ledge.
Which kind of goes back to your pre-fishing comments of the water's off limits, but you have all this vast information on the internet now where you can go and look and see and figure out bottom contours, GPS spots, that sort of stuff.
For sure. And like the Mojave tournament, that was early last year, and I'd spend hours in my garage looking for drops and ledges and points and all this stuff right where I thought I needed to be. And, you know, it actually paid off because about my third stop, I actually caught a couple. So,
Cool.
you know, that's how it went, you know, and I just fished it like I would fish my home lakes right here. And, you know, and it actually, you know, it benefits you if you know, those topo maps and all that stuff. It's just not benefiting you if you're looking for if you're holding on to your secret spots, because everybody else could see that drop, that point. So
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, man, I thank you for coming on. Taking time on your schedule, come on the Bass Magazine podcast.
Hey, no problem, Jay. No problem.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I know our readers do as well. Thank you.
Oh,
and guys, sure. Bass Magazine is the official magazine of the Weekend Angler.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen.
You are very, very welcome. And you know what, guys? It's Wednesday night. Make your plans. Get out there on the water this weekend because you only get to do this once.
For sure.
And stick around, Jason, after I end the podcast.
Okay.